Have you ever felt drained after a conversation, as if every word had sapped some of your energy? Sometimes this isn't just everyday fatigue, but a silent warning that something is off. Small acts of disrespect, veiled criticism, subtle manipulation, and lack of support may seem like small details, but when they accumulate, they erode your self-esteem and sense of worth like a tide that advances unnoticed. It's in this silent terrain that insecurity grows, making you doubt yourself, your feelings, and even your choices. But there's good news. It's possible to regain control. This guide invites you to recognize signs that a relationship, whether romantic, family, professional, or friendship, is crossing your boundaries and sapping your energy. Over the next few topics, we'll walk together, practically and thoughtfully, so you can develop the confidence and discernment needed to move away from what's hurting you and toward what strengthens you. You don't have to face this journey alone, because knowledge is support and clarity is power. Prepare for a deep and transformative dive. Here, you won't just identify toxic behaviors. You'll learn how to cultivate attitudes and thoughts inspired by the principles of Stoic philosophy, capable of nurturing your inner peace and protecting your emotional health. In an accessible way, with concrete examples and a touch of lightness, this text is like a map that points the way out of the cycle of negativity, manipulation, and burnout. You're about to take a courageous step toward your personal growth and build relationships based on genuine respect. Constant lack of respect. Sometimes, disrespect begins so subtly that it goes unnoticed. A derogatory joke here, a belittling comment there. At first, it may seem harmless, even normal. But over time, this subtle behavior acts like a slow poison, eroding your self-esteem and planting tiny seeds of insecurity. It's like when someone puts a drop of water on the same spot on a rock every day. At first, it doesn't seem like much, but after a while, the wear and tear is inevitable. Recognizing this pattern is an act of clarity and courage, as it's the first step toward breaking relationships that undermine your dignity. Ask yourself, am I accepting something that diminishes me because I think it's not that serious? This reflection can be liberating. When you notice the disrespect recurring, you begin to feel a mixture of frustration and confusion. Am I overreacting? This doubt is fueled precisely by these microaggressions, which undermine your confidence. This is where practicing self-observation comes in. Keep a journal, write down episodes, record dates and contexts. This simple exercise brings clarity and can reveal a pattern that previously seemed like just a series of isolated incidents. A practical example. If a colleague at work frequently interrupts you, write it down. By seeing it on paper, it's easier to be certain it's not all in your head and act more confidently to establish your boundaries. Drawing inspiration from Stoic philosophy can help you maintain your inner peace while facing such situations. Marcus Aurelius said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Instead of internalizing disrespect, practice responding calmly and firmly without giving in to negativity. One practical exercise is to prepare assertive phrases for when this happens, such as, "I prefer you to treat me with consideration," or "That way of speaking disrespects me." These simple responses strengthen your sense of inner support and your emotional autonomy. This makes you less vulnerable to manipulation and more willing to grow, even in adverse environments. Emotional or physical abuse. Abuse, whether emotional or physical, is one of the most devastating experiences anyone can face. It often begins with subtle criticism, emotional blackmail, or manipulation, and escalates until it reaches seemingly inescapable proportions. It's as if, little by little, you're stripped of your self-worth, plunging you into a sea of insecurity. When there's physical violence, the scars are visible, but the emotional wounds are often even deeper, silent, and slow to heal. It's crucial to understand that none of this is your fault. The fault lies not with you, but with the other person's abusive behavior. Accepting this truth is an act of self-trust and an essential step toward liberation. One of the pitfalls of emotional abuse is making the victim feel guilty or confused, believing they are provoking the situation. This distortion undermines their self-esteem and weakens their internal boundaries. To begin protecting yourself, seek information about abusive dynamics in books or specialized content. For example, Works like Women Who Love Too Much by Robin Norwood or The Body Keeps the Marks by Bessel van der Kolk can shed light on what you're experiencing. Recording incidents, talking to someone you trust, or seeking professional help are strategies that transform pain into clarity. This way, you begin to see that you are not alone and that there are avenues of support available. Drawing inspiration from Stoic practices can help keep your mind stable as you make decisions. Visualize yourself as someone deserving of respect, peace, and growth, remembering that your dignity doesn't depend on the abuser's opinion. If possible, establish a safety plan. Identify people who can help, places to go in case of emergency, and legal or psychological resources in your city. With each small step toward your freedom, you regain energy and reduce emotional exhaustion. Remember, protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's an act of self-love and a silent cry against the negativity and control they try to impose on you. Transgression of limits. Your boundaries are like invisible fences that protect your emotional and mental well-being. When someone repeatedly crosses them, it's not just an act of carelessness, but a clear sign that your feelings are not being valued. This invasion can begin with insistent requests, constant interruptions, or playful criticisms that actually hurt. Each time you give in, a subtle feeling of insecurity and weariness emerges, which undermines your inner confidence. Recognizing this is essential to avoid normalizing disrespect. Ask yourself, am I neglecting what's important to me to please others? This reflection is a turning point. Setting clear boundaries is an act of self-care and self-love. You can start by communicating your needs calmly and objectively, using phrases like, "I'm not comfortable with this," or "I need some time for myself right now." If the person insists, it's a sign that they don't respect your position. Practicing this type of assertiveness may seem difficult at first, but it works like training. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Also, remember to observe how your body reacts. Physical discomfort, a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, can be a warning that your limits are being exceeded. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we don't have control over others' actions, but we can control our response. This means remaining calm even in the face of provocation and firmly enforcing your boundaries, without falling into the trap of negativity or resentment. A practical exercise is to visualize yourself as a guardian of your emotional space, allowing only what brings you support and growth. Creating this inner territory strengthens your autonomy and reduces the burnout caused by stressful relationships. And by respecting yourself, you teach others, consciously or unconsciously, how you want to be treated. Constant manipulation. Manipulation is like a subtle web. At first it seems harmless, but before you know it, you're already trapped in it. It can come in the form of guilt, emotional blackmail, distortion of facts, or the notorious gaslighting, which makes you doubt your own perception. This dynamic undermines your inner confidence and creates a constant feeling of insecurity, as if it's impossible to be certain of what's real. It's like being a puppet whose strings are controlled by someone else. Every step you take seems designed to keep you under control. Recognizing this pattern isn't a sign of weakness, but of lucidity and courage. To begin freeing yourself from manipulation, it's essential to regain mental clarity. Practicing self-observation is a powerful path. Write down situations that left you confused, record important conversations, and compare facts over time. This reduces the influence of other people's negativity and strengthens your internal boundaries. Another practical strategy is to have a support network, friends, family, or professionals, who can validate your perception and help you see what's happening. This external validation is like a beacon in the fog, guiding you out of the confusion. Stoic philosophy can be an ally in this process. Epictetus said that no one can harm you without your consent, and this phrase reminds us that your mind is your most sacred territory. Developing daily practices, such as meditation or reflective writing, helps strengthen your emotional autonomy and reduce the exhaustion caused by external control. Imagine yourself as the protagonist of your story, taking back control of your own destiny. By taking small steps to escape this web, you open space for personal growth and relationships based on genuine respect, not manipulation. Lack of support. Healthy relationships are built on mutual support, where you feel you can count on the other person in good times and bad. When this is lacking, a silent loneliness emerges, even when accompanied. It's like talking and not being heard, dreaming and having no one to share it with. This lack of support undermines trust and fuels insecurity, making you question whether your needs matter. Small gestures, like not celebrating your achievements or devaluing your ideas, are clear signs that the relationship isn't a two-way street. Recognizing this pattern is essential to protecting your self-esteem. To deal with a lack of support, the first step is to recognize that your feelings are valid. You're not being dramatic or needy in wanting support. It's a basic human need. A practical exercise is to list the times you sought help and received no response, and reflect on whether that relationship has been balanced. Seeking out people or groups that share your interests can be an alternative to filling this gap. Joining book clubs, study groups, or volunteer networks, for example, can bring new connections and strengthen your genuine support network, reducing emotional exhaustion. The Stoics taught that we shouldn't expect from others what isn't within our control, but this doesn't mean passively accepting a lack of respect or boundaries. It does mean valuing yourself enough to seek out environments and relationships that foster your growth. A powerful habit is to cultivate your own emotional autonomy. Practice short meditations focused on gratitude and visualize people who genuinely root for you. By strengthening your inner foundation, other people's negativity weakens, and you gain the clarity to decide who deserves to be by your side. It's in this process that a safe space to flourish is built. Constant negativity. Living with someone who sees everything through a lens of negativity can be mentally exhausting. Little by little, this energy contaminates your own outlook on life, draining your motivation and obscuring the joy of small achievements. It's like walking into a dark room every day. No matter how much you want to see light, the darkness always seems more present. This environment erodes your confidence, fuels insecurity, and can make you believe the world is a hostile place. Recognizing the impact of this interaction is the first step to protecting yourself. Ask yourself, after being with this person, do I feel lighter or heavier? Protecting yourself from negativity doesn't mean abandoning people outright, but rather setting clear limits on how much you absorb from what they say or do. A practical exercise is to reduce your exposure to pessimistic behavior and, at the same time, nourish yourself with positive sources. Inspiring podcasts, motivational books, or gratitude practices. Reading something like Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now can help refocus your mind on the present, strengthening your inner peace. Creating this protective field is essential to avoid emotional exhaustion and maintain your balance. Stoic philosophy teaches that we don't control other people's actions, but we can control our response to them. When someone insists on dragging you down, take a deep breath and choose not to fall into that current of negativity. Visualize yourself as a firm anchor in turbulent waters, remaining stable and connected to your own essence. This not only preserves your energy, but also creates space for personal growth. By taking care of your emotional health in this way, you transform your life into fertile ground for supportive and respectful relationships, where your trust flourishes. Feeling of exhaustion. Relationships should be sources of energy, not constant wear and tear. If you leave a conversation or date feeling empty, exhausted, or emotionally drained, it's a clear sign that the relationship is out of balance. This exhaustion isn't a sign of weakness, but a warning. Your body and mind are telling you that something needs to change. Ignoring these signals fuels insecurity and undermines your inner confidence. It's important to remember that you are not responsible for recharging someone else's emotional energy. Prioritizing your own well-being isn't selfish. It's an act of self-love and self-respect. A practical way to deal with this fatigue is to observe your interaction patterns. Take a mental or written inventory. Who exhausts you? In what situations do you feel predominant negativity? Recognizing these dynamics helps you make conscious decisions about where to invest your energy. It's also essential to set clear boundaries, communicate assertively, and avoid unnecessary blame. For example, setting times or break times and asking for understanding is not only healthy, but it also strengthens your autonomy and creates a supportive environment. Stoic philosophy reminds us to focus on what's within our control. You can choose how to respond to exhaustion caused by others, protecting your energy and reinforcing your personal growth. Breathing exercises, daily meditation, or small self-care rituals help restore inner strength and reduce the influence of manipulation or other people's negativity. With these habits, you learn to recognize when a relationship is draining you and act before the exhaustion becomes unbearable, building a healthy and sustainable emotional space. Lack of trust. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship. When it's broken, whether through lies, secrets, or omissions, the relationship becomes unstable, filled with anxiety and distrust. Living in this constant climate of doubt fuels insecurity and can gradually undermine self-esteem. The feeling of constantly needing to protect yourself and questioning the other person's every gesture or word makes life exhausting and prevents you from feeling comfortable. Recognizing a lack of trust is crucial to assessing whether the relationship is still safe and worthy of emotional investment. Regaining self-confidence is the first step in dealing with this situation. Observe your feelings, validate your perceptions, and don't blame yourself for distrust. The problem isn't you, but the relationship that fails to offer respect and support. A practical exercise is to write down the episodes that shook your confidence, analyzing behavioral patterns and reflecting on the reactions of each party involved. This record helps clear the mind and strengthens emotional autonomy, reducing vulnerability to manipulation or external negativity. Stoic philosophy teaches that we should focus on what we can control: our attitudes, our limits, and our growth. When confidence is fragile, investing in yourself and your inner confidence is essential. Meditating on your autonomy, cultivating true friendships, and reinforcing your boundaries are strategies that strengthen resilience. This way, you learn to identify relationships that drain your energy and create a safe space where insecurity subsides, and you can connect with people who truly value your growth and respect who you are. Ignore the other. Feeling invisible in a relationship is deeply draining. When your achievements, opinions, or feelings are constantly ignored, you begin to question your own worth and harbor silent insecurity. It's like talking to the wind. Your words reach you, but they're not received. Healthy relationships are a dialogue, not a monologue. If you find yourself constantly playing the role of spectator, while the other person takes center stage, it's time to reflect on the dynamic. Recognizing this pattern is essential to protecting your confidence and self-esteem. A practical strategy is to express your needs clearly and assertively, making it clear that you want to be seen and heard. This can start with small actions, such as sharing your ideas in conversations and observing the other person's reaction. If there's resistance or disinterest, this is already an indication that respect for your feelings is lacking. At the same time, seek out environments or people who value you, strengthening your support network and reducing the impact of the negativity that this invisibility generates. Small steps towards self-recognition transform your perception of worth. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we cannot control other people's perceptions, but we can choose how we respond to them. By cultivating your own presence and voice, you strengthen your emotional autonomy and create a safe space for personal growth. Practices like meditation, journaling, or meeting with friends who validate your experience help reduce burnout and strengthen your confidence. This way, you learn to recognize when a relationship is no longer contributing to your life and invest in connections that truly respect and value who you are. Lack of personal growth. A relationship should serve as an impetus, not a break. When you realize you're stagnant, unable to pursue your dreams or be who you truly are, a feeling of frustration and insecurity arises. Relationships like these act as anchors that hold you back, limiting your emotional freedom and your capacity for growth. Observing whether your goals and desires are respected is essential. A healthy relationship encourages and supports, rather than undermines. Recognizing this dynamic is a step of courage and self-love, as it shows that you value your own development. To deal with this situation, start by evaluating your priorities and the moments when the relationship held you back. Ask yourself, do I feel inspired or limited by this person? This analysis allows you to identify patterns and decide on concrete actions. Seeking new experiences, studying, pursuing hobbies, or even investing in personal development courses are ways to regain your autonomy. These actions strengthen your confidence and your ability to make decisions that are aligned with your limits and values, avoiding falling into manipulation or other people's negativity. Stoic philosophy guides us to focus on what depends on us, our choices, attitudes, and growth. When you realize that a relationship is limiting your potential, consciously walking away can be the most courageous and liberating act. Practicing daily reflection, setting clear goals, and surrounding yourself with people who offer genuine support helps restore your energy and reduce emotional exhaustion. In this process, you not only protect your self-esteem but also create the conditions to flourish in an environment that values and respects your personal growth journey. Irreconcilable differences. In any relationship, differences naturally arise, but when fundamental values and life goals are very different, coexistence can become exhausting. Small disagreements can be healthy, encouraging learning and adaptation, but irreconcilable differences often generate recurring conflict and insecurity. The feeling of being constantly at odds erodes trust and undermines emotional harmony. Recognizing that not all differences can be overcome is an act of maturity and self-respect, allowing you to preserve your emotional integrity. Assessing these differences requires honesty and reflection. Ask yourself, are we moving forward together or just pushing each other in opposite directions? Recording recurring conflicts and analyzing whether there's real room for compromise helps you make more informed decisions. Sometimes, the healthiest solution is to accept that certain differences are incompatible, even if it involves initial pain. Practices like talking openly, listening empathetically, and setting clear boundaries can minimize friction, but they don't replace the need to prioritize your growth and well-being. Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control: our attitudes, choices, and responses. You can't change someone else's values, but you can choose to follow paths that respect your own essence. Cultivating support from friends, investing in your personal development, and maintaining confidence in your decisions helps reduce the emotional exhaustion generated by irreconcilable differences. Thus, you learn that preserving your integrity is not a weakness, but a necessary step in building healthy relationships based on mutual respect. Feelings of discomfort. Our body and mind have subtle ways of alerting us when something isn't right. Feelings of discomfort, anxiety, or fear around someone are important signals that shouldn't be ignored. These feelings are manifestations of insecurity caused by situations or behaviors that violate your boundaries. You often try to rationalize and minimize these feelings, but they are a valuable indicator that your emotional integrity may be at risk. Recognizing and validating these signs is the first step to protecting your emotional health and inner confidence. A practical strategy for dealing with these feelings is self-observation. Write down when you feel uncomfortable, what situations trigger these feelings, and who the people involved are. This helps identify patterns and strengthens your ability to respond consciously. Talking to a trusted support person or seeking professional guidance can bring clarity to what's happening. Furthermore, learning to trust your intuition is a powerful skill that reduces the risk of manipulation and prevents the emotional exhaustion caused by toxic relationships. Drawing inspiration from Stoic teachings allows us to face these situations with serenity and assertiveness. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. This way, you can focus on your reactions, protect your boundaries, and distance yourself from what threatens your well-being. Cultivating practices such as meditation, journaling, or breathing exercises helps you maintain balance in the face of other people's negativity. By trusting your instincts and acting with clarity, you strengthen your autonomy, promote your personal growth, and build relationships based on respect and reciprocity. Lack of commitment. Commitment is the willingness to work together to overcome challenges and build something solid. When one party refuses to commit, the relationship stagnates and trust fades. This lack of dedication creates an atmosphere of frustration and insecurity, as you never know if you can count on the other person when needed. Healthy relationships require mutual effort, open communication, and respect for each other's limits and needs. Recognizing a lack of commitment is essential to assessing whether it's worth investing energy and emotion in the relationship, or if it's time to reevaluate. To address this challenge, it's important to observe patterns and behaviors. Reflect on situations in which you needed support or collaboration and noticed resistance or disinterest. Recording these situations helps you identify if there's a continuing trend of disrespect and care. Assertive conversations about expectations and goals can bring clarity, but persistent refusal indicates that the relationship isn't providing the support you need for your well-being and growth. Taking care of yourself in this context is an act of courage and self-love. Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control, our attitudes, choices, and limits. If you realize the other party isn't committed, maintaining your self-confidence and making informed decisions is crucial. Setting firm boundaries and prioritizing relationships that respect your energy and provide support reduces emotional exhaustion. Cultivating self-care habits, seeking healthy environments, and investing in your personal growth are decisive steps toward building connections based on genuine and reciprocal respect, where commitment is a two-way street. Now that you've explored the 13 signs that indicate relationships that undermine your life, it's time to reflect. Which of these patterns have you recognized in your own experiences? Have you allowed yourself to live in environments that strengthen your confidence, respect your limits, and encourage your growth? Or do you still carry burnout and insecurity from remaining in harmful situations? Also ask yourself, what small actions can you take today to cultivate support, respect, and positive energy around you? Remember, identifying these signs is not the end, but the beginning of a journey of personal transformation. Practicing self-observation, reinforcing your boundaries, and moving away from negativity or manipulation are concrete steps toward regaining your emotional autonomy. By applying these principles daily, you strengthen your confidence, reduce the impact of abuse and lack of support, and create space for truly healthy relationships that respect your essence and contribute to your growth. Be inspired by Stoic teachings. Focus on what you can control, value yourself, and build a safe haven for your emotional life. Start acting consciously today, strengthening your self-esteem and cultivating truly worthwhile relationships. And to continue learning and receiving content that helps you free yourself from insecurity and live with respect and balance, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Transformation is in your hands, and every step counts.